Did I share
Uh,
on? I think I don't ever share on Twitter, so I'm going to share on Twitter. Let's see if I got my update on Twitter.
well, hopefully we should be live because I hit the button. We
Oh,
have
so
zero
people
people
are.
watch. Yeah, zero people watching us. So who knows what
Oh,
if
well,
anybody
good.
will show up tonight.
Well, good. Since nobody's watching, we can talk about some secret stuff
We
and
can just
secret.
talk about anything we want, and and we can talk about the crime stats that I'm going to post on our Bossier Watch Facebook page. I I they put it out there
Well,
earlier that crime was down,
I've
but
got some.
not so
I've
much.
Yeah, I've got some questions on those crime stats. I mean, I want to see the complete report. I don't want the cliff notes. I think I want the complete report because I think there's some parameters that weren't included.
I would tend to agree with you. So, folks, y'all just keep an eye out. Either tonight, probably will be tomorrow. We're going to post the real Bossier crime stats. Okay. Um,
Well. No,
so,
look, look. Let me clarify. I think the crime stats that they put out were accurate. I think they were, but I don't think it covers all aspects.
well, I didn't say they were fake. I just said we're going to put out the real ones. That's not the same
Well, you
thing.
said the real ones as if the ones they put out were fake. I don't think
The
the
ones
ones they
they
put
put
out
out
were
were
fake at all.
they're incomplete, and I can prove it, and I will prove it. I haven't laughed
I
as much in a while.
I no, you haven't in a while. So I guess we won't be talking about crime stats tonight. But I said we got to talk about cut five. I mean, I've got crime stats already up there because there is some positive there, and we need to talk about it. I mean, it's something to be proud of. I can tell you, it's not because of Bossier City police officers being paid appropriately during the time frame that these crime stats, would have been compiled. But I would say that it was probably because of the quality of service that the existing officers in Bossier were providing. I mean, the improvements are welcomed, and I would say it's strictly out of loyalty to their duty from the officers in Bossier City. Is my opinion.
Yeah, that all sounds good and well. Look, and the crime is down. We went from what 7 homicides in 23 to 6 in 24. Rape was down from 43 to 39. Armed robbery 27 to 20. Burglaries 328 down to 281. Aggravated assaults went up. Maybe some people got too pissed off about term limits, and so that increased the aggravated assaults.
That I believe.
The thefts went down, both the regular theft and auto theft went down. So those are all good things. I mean, we know that this side of the river, um, we tend to have decent crime stats, but I'm just telling you, that's not a complete set of the numbers, folks. You're gonna get the complete set. It's coming. Because there is one crime stat that was up in the hundreds of percent. I'm just gonna leave it there. Anyway. All right, we do have some folks actually watching now. We got about 40 something, nearly 50 people watching, so that's not bad considering we switched to Thursday night. So,
Yeah, my phone is already getting blown up right now. I'm Anyway. Yeah, my phone's already getting blown up, and we ain't even got into the meat and potatoes of all of this. But crime stats in Bossier, there's some stuff there. Isn't it ironic that we've got? I don't know. I hate to be negative because this is positive. It is positive when you got positive crime stats. We want to see the trend continue, and I think the Bossier City cops they try to do their best. We don't ever like to see them, but except when we need them, and it's a tough job. But hopefully these stats will keep improving. Hopefully Bossier City government is going to give them the tools to continue to improve and make that better. The fact of the matter is the world's not perfect. It's not always going to be perfect, but we can always strive to do better. And hopefully they're going
that
to have
sounds good.
a government in Bossier to enable them to do better.
Yeah, that sounds good. Hey, there's our
But
buddy Kyle
but,
Schultz in the audience.
hey, Kyle, but as well as I do, I mean, the incumbent politicians, they're going to seize on this and put out there, hey, look what we did. We improved the crime stats in Bossier. I mean, I can see it now. I mean, there'll be a Vince
Well,
Maggio social media post incoming. Good grief, any minute now.
but they did. All the
Okay.
criminals were in such awe over that daggum monument of tax dollars in the roundabout that they just didn't have enough time to commit more crime because they were sitting there staring at that stupid monument.
Well, they were all licking their chops as to who was going to get the opportunity to round bale all that hay back during the summer when it wasn't even being tended to or cut. I mean, they
That's
were
true.
fighting. Who's going to sell that round bale?
Hey, hold on 1 second. I got to go shut my heater off. Hold on before I catch fire in
Well, anyway, you're going to have to fix your audio too when you get back because it sounds like you're in a bucket. But all right. So, with 60 to 70 people, and my co host has abandoned us, um, I don't know. Maybe we'll talk about the weather. What do you guys think? Do you like the cold weather? Do you... Oh, you decided to join us.
here. I decided
Me
to
and
come
all
back to
the
the
other
show.
60 or 70 people tuning in. I mean, it's
Well,
growing.
so I'm out in my office in my man cave, which doesn't have central heat or anything out here. So I have a little electric heater. And I had turned on my Mr. Buddy heater just to kind of get it warm back up because I was gone most of the afternoon. And I forgot that I left the Mr. Buddy on. And I was wondering why I was getting a little toasty in here.
I heard that. Well, look, I think we need to go ahead and do the break real quick. We got a pretty good show and a lot of interesting information that applies to every citizen within Bossier Parish because there are some things shaking. It's not just things that are shaking in Washington, D.C., but it's now shaking in Bossier Parish.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to affect every one of you. You're going to want to pay attention to all of this. And, and the stuff happening with the Bossier Parish Police Jury.
Right.
We're going to talk about Judas Jeter. How about that? Or Matt, would you?
Oh, we get to do a little
He's a
negative campaigning.
he is embracing the Judas moniker that we put on him, or do we have to give Hal credit for that too? I mean, I don't
Uh,
know.
I
Sadal,
don't
where
know.
you at?
It's hard to tell whether it was
Does
Hal or Sadal.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Sadal can tell us if Hal needs to be getting the credit for that or anything. I'm just anyway. Uh, in memory lane with Vince, we got a lot of stuff. And hey, my man Cash Patel, did you hear?
His name just has such a nice ring to it.
I
He
mean,
got confirmed for the head of the FBI.
look, the dude is me. He's like mine and your height, because we're short guys. He's our
Mm-hmm.
height. I mean, I don't know what that has to do with anything, but look, he is like a freaking little bulldog, and he's as nice of a guy as you could ever met. Having personally met him, I can say that, and had an opportunity to talk to him. Um, Meanwhile, he got nominated, and at the FBI headquarters, there's a little bit of activity, and we've got some video that was posted up on Twitter of what's currently happening at the FBI now that he was nominated.
Ah, well, it's kind of odd that I would get excited about anything with a three-letter government agency, but I think it is a good thing that he got confirmed. Maybe he'll get in there and yank some knots and well, maybe he'll straighten things out. We'll see. All right,
Well,
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 let's.
given the fact that Bossier Watch has been to that three-letter agency before with
Mm,
information.
yeah.
I gotta say that I'm looking forward to some improvement.
Yes, we had to basically damn near strip down, put all our objects in a lock safe, the whole 9 yards, and well, crickets. But we talked about that before. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and hit the button for the countdown and the break. Folks, y'all know the drill. We'll be back in about 2.5 minutes. That'll give a few more folks time to get the notification. Make sure and tag and share it out. Share it out to your favorite favorite Facebook group. We have a lot to talk about, mostly about the police jury tonight. We've been saying we're turning our attention that way, and tonight we're going to do it. And I will see if I can fix my audio. We'll be right back. Podcast is brought to you by the Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 25 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting. Reach out to Julie Ferris. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And folks sharing information and watching out. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go.
So, talk again.
That was I didn't do
You,
the whole countdown. I just did the little intro. Shame on me. Can you hear me now, though?
oh, we're back.
Yeah, we're back already. Wow.
Oh, well.
I hit the wrong button. Whoops.
Well, all right. You caught me off guard. So we're here.
Yeah,
Let's do
we're
it.
here. So is my audio any better?
No, you still sound like you're in a bucket.
What?
You still sound like you're in a bucket. I don't know. How do I sound? Do I sound like I'm in a bucket? What do y'all think?
You actually sound okay. So y'all let me know, folks, in the comments. How is my audio tonight? I may have to unplug and plug the mic back in or something.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, Cash Patel, they've been dragging their feet, about getting Cash Patel, voted on and put into place. And arguably, I would say because they're the first, they're the first group that will, the FBI, bringing up charges and taking action, and they'll bring a case. They'll probably take it to the federal prosecutors or to the DOJ and say, hey, we have this situation, or we have this, or we have that. Here's the facts. And then they make the decision as to whether they're prosecute or not. So I would suspect that's why they've been dragging their feet. But here's the other thing. There's so much going to come pouring out of this. I mean, I don't know if everybody realizes. I mean, I talked about it in another show and about how, and it was probably palpable about how giddy I was about Cash Patel potentially being named as the next FBI director. I mean, I think there's so many people in government, and across the country that have fed off of government, used government for their personal gain, to destroy people and to run people in the ground. And now probably the first time in a long time, you have an outsider inside that's fixing to take things to another level. And that person is Cash Patel. And you say, let me read a statistic to you, Rex.
Mm-hmm. All right, go ahead.
So the vote today on Cash Patel was 51 votes in favor and 49 against. Your last three FBI directors, Christopher Wray, 92 in favor and 5 against. The one before him, James Comey, 93 in favor, 1 against. The one before him, Robert Mueller, 98-0. The swamp in Washington, D.C. was all on board with everybody before, but you've got a wild card now in Cash Patel. So when you see a split, that ought to tell you that you've got somebody that's not beholden to one group or the other, and there's a change. There is a big change right now happening. And anyway,
look, I got to agree with you. You're absolutely right. Based on those numbers, there is a reason that there are a lot of people who voted against his confirmation, and I would argue as well that's a good thing. That means he's got some people maybe a little nervous, shall we say.
Yeah, they're worried to death about what's going to come of that. And I want to go to another point. There's 2 more points. I mean, look, with this, folks, this just kind of helps us get warmed up and get into the mood of talking about things. But you remember us having a conversation about potentially you not having to pay taxes anymore. Remember that about?
Yeah, on the income tax deal. So what's the status of all that?
Well, I've got two videos set up here that I think are I mean, they're really important, and people need to listen to the words. One of them is Stephen Miller, and then not that one. I mean, that's the one that Stephen Miller talks, and we're going to play that one here in just a minute. But the one
Right.
above that,
Right. I got it.
that is regarding income taxes, and there was a press conference at the White House, and there was a statement regarding the possibility of doing away with income taxes. And I think y'all need to listen to this. I mean,
Okay.
because I asked that question at the North Bossier, that thing Adam Bass puts on, the North Bossier event thing, and I
Right.
asked Senator Kennedy at that deal, and he was dismissive of it, but I wanted to put him on record because I knew Trump, because it was talked about at the national convention. Trump was dead serious about moving us in the direction of getting rid of income tax. And, Kennedy was like, there's no way in hell, basically, that DC is going to move in that direction. But listen to this statement today.
All right. Well, let me hit play, and here we go.
In 2017,
then
President Trump. Go ahead.
Can I just follow up?
You
You just had 2 questions, Kate.
Meg,
Jordan,
can I
go ahead.
I have an important follow-up.
Jordan, go ahead.
So,
Go ahead.
Mr. Hassett, you were speaking about tariff revenue, and you also addressed a question about the IRS. President Trump has spoken about replacing income tax with tariff revenue, especially with all this waste, fraud, and abuse that we're seeing cut. Is that a possibility?
Absolutely. And in fact, if you think about the China tariff revenue that we're estimating is coming in from the 10% that we just added, plus the de minimis thing, that it's between $500 billion and $1 trillion over 10 years is our estimate. And that's something that is outside of the reductions that markets are seeing through the negotiations up on the Hill. And so we expect that the tariff revenue is actually going to make it much easier for Republicans to pass a bill, and that was the president's plan all along.
And then I have a question for
So that's
Miller
it.
about Doge. So
You stop.
spoke about Doge.
Oh, well, well, this next one, you can probably let it keep playing from right there because I think it's the same video. Stephen Miller comes in and just he hits down onto an issue that's fundamental to all government. This, what he says here coming up is applicable to Bossier City. It's applicable to the Bossier Parish Police Jury. It's applicable to Louisiana and the state legislature. It's applicable to government as a whole and the way we all view government and the way we all interpret things. And unfortunately, and Rex, I know you know this to be true, and we're pushing on 100 people watching. And look, I'm going to say it this way, and I'm going to be polite. It's human nature that we want to support people and politicians that we will incur a benefit from. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with it. I would like to add in one quick thing, and we've mentioned or talked about this before once upon a time on this ending or abolishing the income tax deal. One of my customers years back, before he sold his CPA practice, had a copy of the first income tax framed on his desk. It was one single page. It was from, like, somebody correct me in the comments, it was 1913, 1923, whenever the first income tax was. Maybe it was 1903, something like that, but it was one single page.
Right. It is way too burdensome now. And, again, it's not the tax, it's not the current system is not the way originally our country was set up to fund a government. It wasn't the way that it was. But that is changing. That's what Trump is bringing to the table. And Stephen Miller here, play. Let's see if Stephen Miller here, if this is the same video. Let's let it rock on.
All right.
You said roughly $50 billion is set to be cut in a year of waste, fraud, and abuse by unelected bureaucrats. We're hearing this ironic narrative from the president's critics and the left-wing media that Elon Musk is an unelected bureaucrat and he's doing all this terrible stuff. Isn't one of Doge's objectives to get rid of the federal bureaucracy, the deep state, and also who was running the White House when Joe Biden was in office? Because I don't know a single person who believes it was Joe Biden.
You're tempting me to say some very harsh things about some of our media friends. Yes, it is true that many of the people in this room for 4 years failed to cover the fact that Joe Biden was mentally incompetent and was not running the country.
True, but ouch.
It is also true that many people in this room who have used this talking point that Elon is not elected fail to understand how government works. So I'm glad for the opportunity for a brief civics lesson. A president is elected by the whole American people. He's the only official in the entire government that is elected by the entire nation, right? Judges are appointed, members of Congress are elected at the district or state level, just one man. And the Constitution, Article 2, has a clause known as the vesting clause, and it says the executive power shall be vested in a president, singular. The whole will of democracy is imbued into the elected president. That president then appoints staff to then impose that democratic will onto the government. The threat to democracy, indeed the existential threat to democracy, is the unelected bureaucracy of lifetime tenured civil servants who believe they answer to no one, who believe they can do whatever they want without consequence, who believe they can set their own agenda no matter what Americans vote for. So Americans vote for radical FBI reform, and FBI agents say they don't want to change. Or Americans vote for radical reform on our energy policies, but EPA bureaucrats say they don't want to change. Or Americans vote to end DEI, racist DEI policies, and lawyers at the Department of Justice say they don't want to change. What President Trump is doing is he is removing federal bureaucrats who are defying democracy by failing to implement his lawful orders, which are the will of the whole American people. Thank you.
Stop right there.
Drop the mic.
I mean, look, you can hate Trump, you can hate his administration, but everything Stephen Miller just said right there, even if you hate him, you can't disagree with him. If you don't disagree with
he's
him,
stating facts.
it's facts. And I would point out, Rex, I want to, with what he just said, and he's talking about bureaucrats and people like him talking about like the FBI and them saying, well, we don't like it. Well, we're just not going to do it. Where have we heard something recently about somebody in local government? They just didn't like it and said, to hell with it. We just won't do it. Where have we heard that?
Gosh, I don't know. It could be the recalcitrant five who lost at the appeals court, lost at district court, lost at the appeals court, and then the appeals court, as a reminder to everybody, said that they may have committed malfeasance in office, which is a crime.
So, but here's the rub. You can go on Facebook right now. I mean, look, I don't know how well you know Vince. I know Vince, and I know Vince well. I like Vince. I like him. I do.
Yeah.
I think he is one of the most pleasant people to talk to. I think his wife is one of the nicest people I probably ever met in my life. She has always been kind, and I think a lot of her. You can go on Facebook right now, and he's making social media posts, and people are just fawning over Vince Maggio.
He's a nice guy. He's a nice guy, and he's pro law enforcement.
But Vince threw in with exactly what Stephen Miller is talking about right here, and the problem with our federal government. Vince threw in with he knows better, and these institutionalized people and bodies know better than everybody else, and be damned what the people or the laws are. And yet there are people in our community, there's people watching this show right now, that y'all are out there whether we can see you or not. I don't care. I don't care if I see you. You can hear what I'm saying. I mean, but they're like, you'll still throw in on that. You're fine with that. You're fine with putting someone in that wants to double down on the bureaucracy and not following what the will of the people is. I mean, it's a mindset that's become institutionalized, and it's what we're all fighting, or we say we're all fighting, but not all of us are willing to fight it. A lot of us are just willing to. It's in my
Well,
best interest.
look, and I don't want us to go off on a tangent the whole evening about term limits, because we've done that a million times, and we're going to talk about term limits, on other shows too. But here's the thing. So one of the gripes about term limits, for instance, our good friend Ryan Gaddy, he's waffled back and forth, but pretty much he's, for the most part, admittedly, against term limits because he believes, like other people do, especially the embedded, entrenched politicians, that you need that institutional knowledge, and government just can't function without that institutional knowledge. Okay, first place, the per capita debt of Bossier City is astronomical. The newbies, Chris Smith and Brian Hammonds, did not cause that. They're going to hopefully help deal with it. The institutional characters in our local government did. That would be the incumbent politicians, the ticks that have been stuck on our collective backs for 20 and 30 years, caused that. Now, Vince has only served one term, so he is not one of those entrenched incumbents. But, Duke, you're exactly correct, of course. What he did was he put all his eggs in the entrenched incumbent bureaucracy. That's what he
He
did.
he he made a decision, and he had a choice. He had a choice to go the way of, and ironically, he's saying, "Oh, I'm a Mike Johnson Trump conservative Republican." But yet he's not, he didn't toe the line of what they're towing. He threw in with the entrenched political elite, the entrenched, bureaucracy. That's the choice he made. And now he's trying to backtrack out there. And what stuns me is that a lot of people are, they're fine with that.
Well,
How
look,
can you be,
because
how
they,
can you say you want better government, you want better for your community, but yet you're going to throw in and support enabling a continuance of the same damn thing over and over again?
well, it's because people are running on their feelings and emotions rather than the facts. And the facts are, like was said in the comments there, Jessica Langley Maddox put it very bluntly, Vince is a follower. That's it. And he followed the wrong crowd. And half of the wrong crowd abandoned Vince. How do you feel about that, Vince? All your buddies that you decided to side with have now jumped ship. The rats are leaving the ship. Matter of fact, they've already left. Ain't but two rats left. So, I I don't know. It doesn't need to be a bash Vince night, even though he's literally sitting right here between us. So I thought he would want to be a part of the show, since I doubt he would actually come on the show. I haven't
I
gotten a text. You haven't either.
I asked Vince to come on the show one time to address an issue that had came up. He returned my call. We talked about it, and he wouldn't answer me whether he would come on the show or whether he would not come on the show. But the basic answer was no, he wouldn't come on the show. I mean, I would love to see Vince debate. I would love to see him debate Ruth Pope Johnson in a campaign, but it'll never happen.
Right.
Um, he shouldn't be scared to, but he won't do it. He would rather, well, I'm not going to say, I'm going to be nice, but
Yeah. Yeah, it is
Anyway,
what it is. Okay, so let's shift gears. So we've got to talk about Judas Jeter. We've already gone down Vince's memory lane. Let's get to this Bossier police jury stuff because, to be honest, I am sick and tired of talking about the city council for a little while. And I did catch parts
well,
of the Bossier
well,
Parish Police jury meeting, but
well, I gotta stop you, Dano.
uh oh,
The memory lane, we ain't completely went all the way down memory lane. We need to
uh oh.
refresh because, there are people that are watching this show, and I invited some people to watch this show because I want them to understand why people on the other side, the pro term limits people, why we say what we say regarding Vince and that he didn't stand with the people, that he stood with, in fact, in a council meeting, he said, I stand with y'all, talking about the other councilmen when a question was posed regarding the people. He said it. But in addition, I want us to address, and I want to play the video. It's not us making it up. It's not Duke taking a shot. It's not Rex taking a shot. It's his own words regarding term limits. It's
All right.
him saying it.
All right. So, but before we get to that, I want to pause for a second. So, Mr. Roger Thornhill, who's a good guy, said, "What's so bad about Bossier City? I love this city. This parish seems to be going quite well, in my opinion." So, Mr. Thornhill, look, I'm not originally from Bossier City. I happen to like Bossier City overall. I like the people here. Generally, the crime is pretty good, but there are some problems within the government, without a doubt. I'm sure, Mr. Thornhill, you very well can remember the problems with the Cypress district. Well, just amplify that a little bit, and that's the problem with Bossier City, and certainly with the police jury. They're not perfect. The per capita debt in Bossier City is astronomical. I mean, we're giving Sadow a hard time, but Sadow's numbers absolutely are correct on that debt per capita. And there are a lot of other things, lots of wasteful spending. Again, the Tower of Tax Dollars
Well,
being one.
it's not just that, Rex. I would point if I would point out to Mr. Thornhill, I would ask the question. I would say, well, did you think the Link Coleman lawsuit, and would you think that the city of Mosier and the activities that took place regarding the councilman in not approving Link Coleman's development down there, do you think that a federal court issued a judgment in error against all of them down there for what took place? I mean, as I appreciate it, there were a lot of questions regarding hands that were out wanting to be filled.
Well, and
That's
look,
my appreciation of it.
not just that,
Is that acceptable? Is
and
that
even more
acceptable?
An even more recent thing is simply the police and firefighter pay raise and city employee pay raise. Look, they finally got the raise, but the city council literally had to be drugged kicking and screaming into doing that right before campaign season. Why has the city not been able to budget for that pay raise? Why does the Bossier PD, Bossier City Police Department, constantly run over a dozen or more officers short because they can't get them hired? Why have they not? The crime is pretty good in Bossier. Imagine how much better it would be if we could fill all the positions that needed to be filled and the Bossier PD wasn't running around half shorthanded all the time. Think about
It,
that for a
well,
second.
and and is it acceptable, or should it be that public safety officers, whether it be police or fire, have to run billboards to get a raise to be brought up to the local average? Is that what it takes to get your elected officials, your councilmen, to consider raising your pay? No, that's bull crap. Public safety, your police officers shouldn't have to be worried about paying their bills and getting paid a fair wage and having to, one, do the job of putting their life on the line. And then also, oh, by the way, I've got to, put billboards up and politic to get paid a fair wage. No, they shouldn't have to do that. That's the problem with entrenched government and bureaucracy that Vince threw in with. He can run the sheriff's endorsement, which is an inside endorsement, all day long. He can throw that out there all day long, but it's bull crap. And say he supports public safety. That's bull crap. That's bull crap. Those guys should not have had to go put billboards up to force the issue to get raised up just to be brought to average. That's bull
Right.
crap.
I agree. And look, Mr. Thornhill, we absolutely appreciate all comments, whether you completely agree, don't agree, or disagree with us. And you're right, no city is perfect. There are issues, sure, but overall we live in a great place. I I think we do live in a great city. I think we live in a great parish, even though I'm not from here, but I think the people here and the location and all that is good, but there are problems with our government, full stop. There's no
And
denying
and
that.
and That's right. And Mr. Thornhill, I appreciate you raising the question the way that you raised it, because it enables us to really get into the meat of what we were going to talk about tonight, because we're talking about local government, Bossier City, but additionally Bossier Parish. And the way that we've been doing business in Bossier City and Bossier Parish have placed us into a precarious position now, to where, for example, the police jury, which is the primary topic of what we're going to talk about tonight, everybody in Bossier Parish now, you're fixing to be faced with more tax increases. That's where that I think, my
They
opinion,
were they
that's
were
where this is
signaling
heading.
for it.
Yeah, they're wanting to tax you more. And why are they wanting to tax you more? Now, you can be one of those people that, you know what? I don't want to know. All I know is I just want to be able to say that, hey, Vince Maggio will be the greatest councilman in Bossier City there's ever been. He probably should be mayor. Or, you know what? I don't even want to ask any questions. If the Bossier Parish Police Jury says we need more money, I don't want to know why they say we need more money. I just believe we need to give them whatever they ask. Well, you know what? You go up there and you give them your wallet, but me, no, I don't want to do that. I want to know why. I want the answers. Not everybody does. That's fine. If you don't want to know the answers, then get out of the way and leave it to us that do want to know the answers, because by gosh, we're going to try to get the answers. And that's where we're at right now, is all of you better be guarding your wallets, because I think they're trying to come after more.
Well, yeah, I mean they pretty much they signaled it several times during this meeting. Okay. So, are we ready to bring up the meeting, or do we
Well,
want to bring up the
I,
campaign video
well,
yet?
I cut you off because and I appreciate Mr. Thornhill. He was getting us going. He teed it up great to go to the police jury, but I cut you off regarding Judas Jeter,
Oh
and
yeah.
I. I think we probably ought to get Bossier City out of the way, because the police jury stuff is going to be long, arduous, and we're going to want to be done with this after we get to that.
Okay. I feel like doing some negative campaigning. Anyway, so let's hit Judas Jeter.
Now,
We'll make it
I
like a
think
game show. Behind door number 2, Judas Jeter.
I think he is embracing the moniker of Judas that we placed on him, but I'm not so sure he's on the right reason why we called him Judas. But I think tonight we're going to prove why we named him Judas, or coined him Judas.
Okay, so which cut do I need to go to first? Let's
Uh,
see.
Lee embraces Judas.
All right, here we go. Hold on just a
somebody
second.
somebody sent this to me and said, hey, it looks like Lee Jeter is embracing y'all naming him Judas, because he goes to scripture.
Well, he is a preacher.
Well,
Uh,
maybe he is, and I guess it's his post, so he can choose which scripture he wants.
yeah. And so he posted Acts 15, 32. Judas and Silas, who themselves were prophets, said much to encourage and strengthen the believers. Hmm. Hmm.
Well, that's
But that
one
whole
way.
30 pieces of silver thing, but I don't know
Well, go to cut two. I mean, that was his choice. My choice actually would be one of the other scriptures myself.
Yeah. Matthew 26:14. Then one of the 12, called Judas Iscariot, went unto the chief priests and said unto them, What will ye give me? And I will deliver him unto you. And they covenanted him for 30 pieces of silver.
That, I think, was the Judas I was referencing. Was that not the Judas you were referencing?
Yeah, of course, look, I got to say, in Lee's defense, lots of people like to pick and choose from the Bible.
Yeah. You're right. You're right. Well, you know, to burnish this resume of Judas here, there's a replay video I have in the notes there, and at the 126:15 mark, um, you know, it Lee he didn't have any problem. He was right there when we talk about the bureaucracy and being in lockstep. I mean, he was on the same page with. Interestingly, he's a minority, and he was right in lockstep with wanting to silence the public. We talk
Oh,
about that often.
you don't say.
Eh,
All right, I'm
yeah,
pulling it up now.
because remember, Juliana was all giddy about setting the limitations on people being able to speak and cutting people off, and Judah threw right in there, which is uncanny that a minority would want to be cutting people off, but he was sure on board, and I'm not making that up. I mean, right?
No,
We'll show you.
what's the timestamp? 126.
Yeah, 126:15.
All right. Let's see. Uh, maybe right there about Jeter no speaking from a written document without approval.
Yep, there you go.
All right, here we go. Let's make sure sound's up, all that, so we can hear everything.
No citizens, according to the rules, can speak written document without the approval of this particular body. That, you can't come up to this body with a 15-page dissertation on an issue and speak from that 15-page dissertation without the approval of this particular body.
Wait a minute. I just got to point out the irony of this. What is he doing right there?
He's reading off a damn set of notes.
He's reading off a document.
Yeah. I mean, it's
And look, I got to say, I was at a function the other night, Friday night, as a matter of fact. Lee was there. We were very nice to each other. He introduced me to his wife and all that, and everything's
oh,
hunky
that's
dory.
that's fine. I'll be the bad guy. You can say
No,
whatever.
no, no, no. I'm
Go.
just saying, personally, I mean, Lee's a nice guy. Well, he was on the board of election supervisors when I was there and all that. But this is ridiculous, Lee. You're trying to limit free speech or limit people from reading from a document, which would violate, I don't know, probably the First Amendment, among other things, while you're literally reading from a document. Now,
Well,
how stupid is that?
what's ironic is he got on there and everybody thought, oh, Lee Jeter, he's going to be for the people. He's going to be for the people. He's kind of separated. He's different than everybody else. He doesn't have any connections, whatever. Well, you know what? Um, I've learned a little bit this week, Rex.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Really?
if you go to cut 4, there was a little bit of talk about the Fuller Center. You remember
Uh-oh.
that? Because he like administers the Fuller Center or something of that nature or whatever.
Right. Yeah,
And I
look,
don't know how.
they help build houses and put people in houses or something to that effect, or redo houses, and from what I've heard, it's supposed to be a pretty good organization. So what's the problem?
Well, I don't know that I would say there's really a problem, but as you can see right here, this was a 2022 filing, and you see Lee A. Jeter Sr.'s name right there, and you see the Fuller Center up there at the top. But I want you to scroll down to the bottom and let's look at who prepared the tax documents here. Who was doing his business?
Hold on, I got to put the
Oh
little finger
wait a
there.
minute. Wait a minute. I recognize that name.
Yeah,
Huh.
none other than Travis Moorhart, our good friend Travis.
Oh, wait a minute. The husband of the Moorhart that was on the Charter Commission there fighting against term limits and all. That was the ringleader of everything. So
Yeah,
they have a prior relationship and had been working together. The same Cook and Moorhart that does I think that the police jury and Cypress District and all these different groups, and the insiders. So Lee Jeter's been an insider all along. Who knew?
it's funny how all these things are connected. We're not making this up, folks.
So Lee, Judas Jeter, I'm just wondering. I mean, why did you not disclose that you had a relationship? I mean, did you not want everybody to know that you were on the other side, or that you were? I don't know. It just seems odd that you would have never, that you had a relationship, because it seemed to me that just kind of wasn't that you had it. But you know what? That ain't nothing. I mean, maybe Cook and Moorhart just does a really good job, and that's just who they use. I don't know. So I have a link, Rex. I did a little bit more digging,
Okay,
and
hold
I
on.
found something else. So if
All
y'all were watching
right.
the start of this, y'all were watching the start of this show while you're getting it ready. I'm gonna tee it up. If
All
y'all were
right.
watching the start of the show, we were talking a lot about Trump. And again, I don't care if you like Trump. Okay, look, I'm bald. I'm jealous of his hair. I'm sorry, but you may not like him, and that's fine. You may not like Elon Musk and what Elon Musk is doing. But what did y'all think? I'm just curious. What did y'all think about all of the abuse that you're seeing out of the USAID stuff, the USAID money going all over the place, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I I guess I need to pull this up in another screen so I can help myself guide myself along. So, there's this website called Data Republican, and I'm going to say it's one of these little tech guys, probably like you, Rex, or something or another, but he's probably 20 years younger, that put this thing together. But it's tied in with some of the stuff that Musk, and it's a searchable database for nonprofits and things for people to do searches. And it's focused on all of the USAID grant money. And in the right corner where you see the Fuller Center for Housing, if you can imagine that, I did a search simply for Lee Jeter. And lo and behold, he's in there. And if you do the see USAID grant flow, go ahead and click that.
All right. Let's
And it's
do that.
got bunch of disclaimers kind of right here at the top. And if you scroll on down past that, and it may be a little hard for you to show it, Rex, to blow it out,
Yeah,
but
it'll be a little difficult, but y'all get the general point. We'll share the link out.
what it does is it shows connections between every one of these organizations and how the money flows from one organization to another organization. Well, as it would turn out, the Fuller Center, it shows money flowing from the Community Foundation North to the Fuller Center. I mean, and that's a Shreveport organization. And then the money that flowed to the Community Foundation North flowed from a group called the East West Management Institute, which money flowed from a group called Pact Incorporated, from another group, the Administrators of Tulane Educational Fund, from another group called Save the Children Federation Incorporated. And then, of course, the Baton Rouge Area Foundation is in there. I mean, you guys should go explore this. But my point is, this has ties, and the Fuller Center has ties to the USAID stuff. I mean, and it appears that there's something there. I mean, and I just generally found this. So I don't know. I don't know what to say at this point.
Well,
yeah.
Look, none of them are innocent in this deal. Let's just put it that way.
I mean, the only thing I didn't see was the Caddo Bossier port. I mean, Eric England and I didn't see their flowing money in here to the Fuller Center, or the police jury.
Wow. Well, look, I think Lee he advocates that he has everyone else's best interests at heart. I think Lee has his interests at heart as well. And I think, much like Maggio, he was all on board with the term limits, except he never actually turned in any signatures for the petition, on either petition, by the way. But he was darn sure there to do the photo ops. I think he chose, in the moment, to side with the people who are completely self-interested. And, hate to say it, but Lee, that was a mistake. That's it.
That was a mistake, because Lee, you're going to lose. But you know what's going to happen? Lee's going to say, "Oh, it's because I'm black." That's what Lee's going to say. Watch. Take it to the bank.
I hope he doesn't pull out the race card, but maybe he will.
Oh, he's going to. You can take that to the bank. That's where Lee Jeter is going to go.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I don't even know what to say to all that. Yeah.
Judas Jeter. If you think it sticks, I mean, you should continue to call him Judas Jeter. He's Judas Jeter to me, and it won't change. And when I was on the Board of Election Supervisors with him, anyway, I'll leave it there.
Yeah. Enough said. All right. Can we go to the police jury?
Go ahead. Sure, let's go to the police jury. Dadgummit. I told you I've been working on the police
jury.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So the police jury, has apparently that there's an infrastructure problem. Did you know that?
No,
that we've got an infrastructure problem.
You don't say. And I bet they almost had their hands out for money.
Well, I mean, they were bumping up close to saying that, but how did we know there were any infrastructure problems? Well, you had a YouTube video that really brought it full circle, because I remember a campaign not too terribly long ago where, infrastructure was a subject matter of conversation within a campaign.
Yeah, it was, and I'm trying to find my link real quick. So let's go down memory lane for just a second, and then we'll get to the actual meeting. But let me get this thing queued up here. Let's see, paste and go.
Rusty Maddox, we've got Princess incoming. Stand by. Val Baker, Glenn Benton is coming. Stand by.
Yeah. All right. So let me switch screens. All right. So full disclosure, I helped Barry Butler's campaign. I produced the video, but it's completely relevant to the police jury. So here we go.
Parish sewage system. It's supposed to pay for itself, but it hasn't.
And so we were keeping up with it, and we were having infused money into the system.
Over the last few years, it's lost over $13 million. That's $13 million of your tax dollars that went here that should have gone somewhere else.
So last year, it became evident. We decided we've got to change it. So we went up on the rates.
For those of you on the system, you've seen your rates increase from an average of 37 to a now flat rate of 54.
Found out was that we didn't get our customer base up as fast as we thought, and we were losing money.
police jury is not done yet. They will need to increase your rates even further to balance the books on this project, to make this system solvent.
We're trying to make this thing fully functional and self-supporting. But even after this 3-year rate increase, it still won't be self-supporting, and I want to make sure everybody understands that.
The system is broke. You're not going to find answers in this police jury.
I was listening to our engineers, and they were telling us we could get into this business with zero investment. And what we found is that that's not the case. We have subsidized in the last 4 to 5 years up to $10 million.
You need someone up there who can actually run the numbers and tell you what this is actually going to cost.
Nobody was doing this, and I didn't do it. It's my fault. I thought we were making money. I just stood up here and thought we were breaking it. And unbeknown to me, we were having to infuse money in the system. So it was a
Y'all hear that?
We were told we could develop a $50 million without putting any money in it. And that is a fallacy.
All right, that's important because I'm not going to worry about going into Barry's campaign spill there. But look at that quote from Butch Ford. He says, "So it was a fallacy. We were told we could develop a $50 million sewer system without putting any money into it, and that is a fallacy." Duke, that number that they threw out earlier, was it 13 million, I think? Let's see, they subsidized in the last 4 to 5 years up to 10 million. This video was done a year or so ago. And I think the other number that they threw around, look,
Yeah.
Patrick Jackson.
So some. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, Patrick Jackson says, even after a 3-year rate increase, it still won't be self-supporting. And Patrick Jackson basically runs all the police jury meetings. I don't even know why they have a president of the police jury.
So they're actually, their numbers are somewhere between 73 and 90 million is where they're at in the sewer district thing. And, just like Barry said that, and he was talking about within 3 years, and what they were saying is that they still wouldn't be, they would still be upside down even 3 years from then. That was like 2021 or whatever year it was. And, the public wasn't voting in even this election. They weren't voting on what made sense in government. They were voting on popularity in bureaucracy, or maintaining the bureaucracy was what you were voting on. Well, guess what? That's coming back to haunt you now today, because now, under the guise of we have infrastructure problems, and everybody knows, and there's some legitimacy to the argument that's being made that there's traffic problems. Anybody that gets hung up on Benton Road or Airline Drive at 5 to 7 o'clock in the afternoon knows that traffic is backed up unbelievable, and that Swan Lake Road is going to get the exact same way. It's backing up a tons of traffic. Everything north of 220 between Benton and 220 is exploding, and that's what we're talking about here. So the police jury, and we don't have to play it. I've got the replay. I mean, I can articulate it, or we can show it. I think it was in November of last year, the police jury, in trying to address this, put in place a moratorium on any more approvals for housing or developments in North Bossier within kind of this area, to slow growth down. And I think it's because they feel like they can't keep up with the infrastructure, in which I would agree that they probably can't. But what is the real reason that they can't keep up with it? Is it because they don't have the money, or is it because they just can't physically keep up with it? I think it's because they don't have the money. And why do they not have the money? We just showed you part of why they don't have the money, but they're not going to say that. They're not going to say, we don't have money because we sunk so much damn money out there into a sewer district that has us upside down, and we poorly managed it. what we want to do is come back to you for more money and to say, we need help. We need another tax. That's where I think this is heading.
Well, look, I hate to say it, but it goes back somewhat to what we were discussing with the entrenched incumbency and lack of term limits on the police jury's part. Look, it may not have helped, but I just got to say, there are several of the police jury members that have been on there for quite a while. And they screwed up managing a sewer district, among other things. Yet, oh well, to fix that, we just trust us with some more money, and we'll do it right the next time. We'll get all this infrastructure right that they haven't been planning for the last 20 or 25 years anyway. I mean, really? So I'm going to switch screens. Are we ready to go through the meeting?
Yeah. Let's rock and roll, because people need to see a lot of the arguments and the debate that took place in this meeting, because for all of you. So, Rex, here's the thing. I think everybody watching this show, I think we all take ownership in this. This is our community. We love our Bossier. We hear about Louisiana, and we hear about our kids move away and out migration, and we're losing population, and that people aren't staying, and some of what is being proffered here and is things that will cause more out migration, not people staying here, but people leaving. And you've got numerous builders and engineers and people who, primarily Cara, but through our mortgage company, we've dealt with lots of years. These are people with a lot of experience, a lot of people that are knowledgeable on, some of the things going on. And they make some really good points here, and I want to go through them as we play this video. And go ahead, and I don't even know, I don't have Restream up, so let's go ahead and start hitting it.
Okay, so I'm going to start at your first mark. Just tell me when you want to stop.
I'll try to be quick. I just got a few points about how our homes are being built, median price and everything. The median household income in Bossier Parish is $67,263. In Louisiana, it's $57,000. So we're in a positive position here to fund some of this infrastructure. The average price of home sold in Bossier Parish for 2024 was $252,300. That's $159 per square foot. It's not $250 or $300. The population of Bossier Parish in 2020 was 128,721. Today, it's 130,437. So our growth is only 1,716 people moving in. So we're not being overburdened by additional population that's just moving here by leaps and bounds.
I want to stop for a second and do two things. One, I want to commend the police jury. At least they have good audio now for the meetings and a decent stream. Kudos to them for that. But that's interesting, the stat that he just mentioned, that there were only about 1,700 more people coming into the parish, because if you listen to a lot of the rhetoric from the politicians, you would think that we were growing by 50% a year.
Yeah. I mean, and look, Glenn Barnhill is no dummy. I mean, Glenn, he's been around Bossier for a long time. He's built a lot of houses. He's been a builder for, good grief, a coon's age. But I think he's on to something here, and he keeps going, and he makes some more really important remarks regarding homes and dealing with people, and the police jury and how they're spending money. So let's let him keep going.
Average homes that we're proposing to do are in the 350,000 range. So that's a little bit above middle income people here. And middle income in the real estate industry, which is about 75% of the real estate industry, fuels our economy. from that standpoint, when you look at the overall market, just our homeowners here in one subdivision, from what they spend in sales tax, and I know that's one of y'all's large revenue incomes is sales tax. A 400 unit subdivision would generate 30.24 million in economic impact for an area. That's buying home, sales, insurance, everything they buy, cars. So you get sales tax over that. So just property tax is not what fuels everything. So from my standpoint, we need to do a reapportionment of what we do with our tax dollars here, because our critical infrastructure, to me, is more important than a library system, which is
Amen.
underutilized. Because I live by one, 2.5 miles. You go by there, there's 2 cars there sometimes. They get almost 3 times the amount of money that our roads and bridges does. And that's critical infrastructure. Libraries are not critical infrastructure. So I think if we put some advertising out and put some bond issues or property tax issues in front of the voters and explain the upside down that we have in our apportionment of taxes needs to be addressed. And I think the public will probably vote along with it to raise more money for our critical infrastructure.
Thank you, Randy.
So
Appreciate it.
stop
Thanks.
it right there.
All right.
So he raised the elephant in the room is the apportionment of the taxes haven't been going to where they need to go. And, he cites the library system in which, to my friend Glenn Barnhill, I would say, Glenn, do you not understand that those roadways, you can't put a police juror's name on them? I mean, those libraries, if they rebuild it and spend more money on it, you can put their name on their names, the police jurors' names on it, on a plaque that'll be there forever, and they'll be all proud. And the kids would, I mean, what would they do if they couldn't go in there and get one of those books that are on the national ban for, pornography or whatever it is? I mean,
Right.
you'd had to watch that show to know what I was talking about. But he's just saying we're our money's not apportioned correctly. I mean, and he probably
he's
wasn't
right.
trying to take. He's right, and he doesn't even. He probably does know how right he is. And the upside downness on the sewer district thing, their drive to, we estimate 73 to 90 million somewhere in there, and it was supposed to be balanced. It was supposed to be revenue neutral, but it's not. It's upside down. And who's been paying for all that? And why are we short that? Why are we have a problem with infrastructure now? Because the police jury doesn't have any money. They can't do it themselves. So we're just going to, I mean, what are we supposed to do? Trust them again?
I have a quote for that somewhere, but it would be inappropriate for the show. All right. Do we want to jump ahead to the next mark? You want to keep on playing? I think your next mark is with Glenn Benton.
Yeah, let's jump to the next part. And Glenn Benton, makes a statement here, and he's trying to get to one of the points, and it's kind of long here in this part, but let's let it play.
All right.
That is all the messages we received in.
All right, we've got some developers and engineers in here, so why don't we get some input on some lot sizes? Ryan, y'all have anything y'all want to?
Mr. Benton, would you give me just a few minutes and let me get everybody oriented? Because
Would you like to address the transportation plan that we had?
Yes, sir. Can I get the Elmo, please?
So Patrick's going to explain what all of this is kind of about, and which I thought this was good.
Yeah, and for those of you that don't know, Patrick Jackson is the parish attorney, one of the assistant district attorneys, and he basically runs the police jury meetings, not the police jury.
Employee of the district attorney's office.
All right, so that we can get everybody oriented to why we're here. So the Bossier Parish Police Jury approximately 55 days ago imposed a pause on residential construction, new subdivisions in this area reflected on this map. Tomorrow, this jury will determine whether to shrink this, maintain the moratorium. We're going to work with that. I know that a lot of the folks in the audience have participated in some of the subdivision committee meetings where this has been discussed at great length, but to give those that are new to the meeting and those that are watching online some understanding of kind of how this grew. Everyone on the jury is aware of the more than 20-year-old Bossier Parish land use study that we did with the city of Bossier. It emanated from the joint Bossier City, Bossier Parish MPC. We spent about $1 million to take a look at all this future growth, the best uses for land, where water was, where sewer wasn't, those kind of things to help measure growth and to drive public investment into how this parish would grow. Also, you're familiar with, we've been submitting to Congress for the last at least 2 decades, the Bossier Parish Transportation Plan. It's been updated through the end of 2024. It is what primarily funded the new north-south corridor and certainly helped us identify the new Arthur A. Teague Slager Road extension in the south and those other east-west corridors and transportation corridors that are necessary to manage this growth. But what really brought this to a head is the level of service of transportation in this particular corridor has driven a lot of the main arteries and certainly a lot of the neighborhood connectors to service levels F. For those in the audience that really don't know how those things are measured, go to an LSU football game about the time they're about to kick off, that's an F. Okay? So we're trying not to be at an F. So with all that information put in place, this jury decided to take a pause and give the staff some time to try to figure out what things could be done in a short amount of time to deal with the growth. This did not apply to commercial development. This did not apply to industrial development, only residential development. Also exempted were those projects that were in certain statuses. They'd already applied to the MPC, they'd already gotten certain approvals and were on their way. What the staff was able to put together, and Ken and Eric will come up and give y'all some more information, is that in this particular splotch of red, right now, we are aware of almost 5,000 homes in the North Bossier category and approximately 3,800 homes in the Houghton East Bossier category. So the question was asked, assuming 2 cars per house, can our infrastructure handle another 20,000 cars daily in this geographical area? So obviously the answer is no. We needed to come up with a solution. I've been working for this body for a little over 25 years, and it has always been the desire of this body to be business friendly, to welcome all development, all good development. There was a change since I've worked for juries in the past. There was a hard focus on making sure we got stick-built, slab-based construction as opposed to modular and mobile. And so we drove policy in that direction. But the bigger issue now is it's always been your way that if a developer needed 1 drop of water more than the lines would carry, needed 1 toilet flush more than the sewer lines would carry,
Enough of
needed
that.
Yeah, I can't take anymore.
I was about to go to sleep. Hey, I got a question though before you get started. So the numbers to me are not adding up. So Mr. Barnhill said the growth, and I've not looked up the numbers. He said the growth was about 1,700. Yet they're talking about, permitting for 5,000 or however many housing units or whatever. I mean, where are those people coming from? Are there that many people moving from Bossier City proper out to the parish? Do we know? Did any of them talk about where this catastrophic growth that we need, which we do need the infrastructure, but that they're haven't planned for all this infrastructure? Where is this growth
Well,
coming from?
I mean, look, Barksdale is adding an exponential amount of people out there to the mission at Barksdale. I mean, I look, I get what he started out in saying, that they took a breath, they put a moratorium and took a pause, and I can appreciate that. But what I don't appreciate is, why did you have to do that? Why have you gotten to the position to where you have to impose a moratorium just to catch your breath? You haven't kept up. And he articulates that he's been there for 25 years. I mean, I'm thinking back about Stephen Miller and talking about bureaucracy and government and in Washington and the cog and the wheel. And if you've been there for 25 years, and I know a lot of these police jurors have been there for a long time. Obviously, Juliana hasn't been there for a long time. Philip hasn't been there for a long time. Marsiglia hasn't been there for a long time. But Glenn Benton, Doug Rimmer, they have been there a long time. And arguably, I would say that they have drove policy up there, because these other folks just kind of follow along. They're, I mean, I think it's safe to say we may be in the situation that we're in, that we're behind the curve because we have not been proactive. We've not. Butch Ford was not proactive. And you're going to see here in just a minute that it was policies that were established, I would argue, over this tenure of Patrick being in there for 25 years. He would have been there when this was done. That, well, he may not have. 25, I mean, we're 25. Wow, so that's 2000. Yeah, he may not have at some of this, but he's been there. And why were we not proactive? In fact, somebody goes to the point of asking about a traffic study. It might have been even Barry Butler here in a minute. They said, well, we'll make that traffic study public, to which Patrick says, well, it's not available for the public yet, or it's not ready. Well,
Why not?
why? Yeah, I did just, again, you need change in government. When we all just kind of rubber stamp and say, and Doug Rimmer was one of the biggest opponents of term limits. But when you get the same people in there over and over and over again, that it's just business as usual, they're unwilling and rigid and unwilling to change, and they want to keep doing things the way that they have, you can't. You've got to be able to be flexible, and you've got to be able to change. I mean, I think that's one of the things that makes Elon Musk successful, is he's willing to change. But our local people in politics, they don't want to change. They want to continue to do things the same exact way they have done things. Again, I invoke Vince Maggio. He doubled down with the old ways. He wants to continue to do that. He doesn't want to change. Well, we can't do that. We cannot do that. We've got to change. Go ahead.
If we keep doing the same things over and over and expect different results, that's pretty much that old cliche definition of insanity. And again, you're absolutely right. That is your whole soapbox there, which was spot on, is the whole argument against entrenched incumbencies. But we digress back to term limits. All right. Shall we proceed on or jump ahead to, I think, the 3318 mark is the next one you have. We're talking about Eric proceeds to cut. Okay. Let's jump up to there, and here we go.
Bring up some of the...
Yeah, I mean, I can update y'all. I handed out last time at your last subdivision committee meeting some preliminary recommendations that the report had. They're finalizing the figures. I should have the final dollar amounts on figures tomorrow. They should have that report finished. They had a draft, had a few miscellaneous things they needed to tweak on the report, so I don't have the final draft for you today. But just in general, I mean, just a few things when they look at, and understand these improvements are through 2034. That's if you had a 10-year span and we have some modest growth with, these 4,900 homes being built in this area. I mean, some of the recommendations that they have is continuing the 5-lane section of Airline Drive up past to Old Palmetto Road, continuing a 3-lane section up to Vance Road, continuing the 3-lane section of Kingston Road all the way to Highway 3. Every intersection on Airline Drive would be upgraded, left and right turn lanes in all directions. Deans Point Road would need to be a 3-lane road from Veterans Parkway all the way over to Airline Drive. It's hard to grasp that, like they said, it took us 20 years.
He's basically,
to
you can
build.
stop it. He's basically talking about getting an estimate of how much money they're going to need to make all of these infrastructure improvements, widening roads, making roads bigger, over a period of time. And he's making an estimate, in my opinion, he doesn't say it, but he's making an estimate of how much money to go to the taxpayers for a bond or increased taxes. That's what he's trying to come up with a number for. I mean, not utilizing existing money because, again, I think they got all their money tied up.
Not cutting a library out of the budget.
But they're not going to say, "Oh, well, we kind of made a mistake," or "Oops, we can't do it." Well, the only way we can do anything or make any improvements is we got to get y'all to ante up more money.
Yeah, so they got to put their hand out and say, "Please, please, please, send us your money."
Yep. So let's go to the next mark.
Okay, next mark would be the 36-minute mark, I think. Here we go.
We haven't, as far as lot sizes and changing pavement sections and subdivisions, these are just things that we've talked about that, that would help free up other money for us to do some of these capital improvements rather than fixing streets
there
and
you go.
subdivisions 7 to 10 years after they're built.
So help him to free up money from the sewer district, for example. But he doesn't say that.
Right. Yeah. Well, he's not going to point out the the flaws in the whole thing. All right. So we jump ahead to Patrick.
Yep. Go to the next one.
Here we go. Drum roll, please, folks. Introducing Patrick Jackson again.
Anybody in the audience?
Patrick, would you kind of touch a little bit on the bond issue that we tried to pass in 2005? It's why it took 20 years to build Veterans Highway?
Well, I think everybody in the audience is appreciative of the fact that the police jury operates primarily off sales tax. Ad valorem tax, primarily, a piece of it does go to the police jury for certain functions, but the majority of property tax goes to take care of our school system. So we live and die by sales tax, as Mr. Barnhill was talking about. Early on, we identified this growth problem and attempted to pass a bond issue for roads. But Bossier Parish is and has always been anti-tax, and we knew that was going to be a tough situation. But the growth problem had not really bitten enough people yet. It was still kind of in the future. And we went out with a comprehensive package to try to identify these corridors and build it sooner. It went down. It failed.
I got to stop right there for a second. Did y'all hear when he said it had not bitten enough people yet? He's referring to all us peasants out here that we hadn't felt the pain of growth yet. Wait a minute. If those morons had been planning properly to begin with, it might not be such a bad thing. I'm just saying. But instead, they were
Well,
worried about sewer districts and libraries.
Well, I took what he was saying. It's all everybody's fault because they didn't pass their tax before. Now you're paying for it.
Oh,
And if you
yeah.
don't pass their tax again, you're going to prevent them from being able to do their next sewer district.
No
Or-
growth. They're going to take all the toys and go home.
But okay, so we have another engineer with Rayleigh and Associates. Ryan Estes comes up, and one of the ways, as I am understanding from listening to the dialogue that took place here, is they're looking to limit the number of people with different ways by one, increasing lot sizes on new construction, and there's problems there. And Ryan Estes also addresses an issue regarding the expense if you do that in relation to the requirements that the police jury puts on the developers and the builders on street standards. And y'all are going to love this. This you have got to hear. So
All right,
play
here
that
we
part.
go.
With that. First off, I just want to mention that everything from a development standpoint, I'll get into street standards and I'll get into lot sizes, is purely market driven. It's economy, and it's what people buy, what people sell. They gave you lots of real estate statistics about average prices of homes and average median incomes, that I could go into detail on that if you wanted me to. But from this standpoint, we'll do simple development and how market drives the economy, drives lot sizes, drives sales price, drives everything. I did a quick exhibit just to show you.
You can zoom out, Ron.
Just to show you what we're saying. This is just me coming up. This is me coming up with an eight acre site. I wanted to use something that was quick and that you could see and could picture. Y'all can all see that. I got 3 different lots, or 3 different subdivisions, regulation, or residential developments of 3 different lot sizes. And what do I mean by market driven? First, I mean whoever buys this tract of land, whether it's a residential developer or whether it's a landowner that says, okay, I want to do this, that's owned the property. If the landowner decides to sell the property, that's all based off comps. He doesn't sell his property any lesser of value than what the farmer down the street or the landowner down the street. It's market based. So that's a fixed cost. Secondly, we're developing streets and drainage in this, and along with water and sewer. And if you looked at this, I'm just coming up with some costs. I got land costs, 8 acres at $25,000 per acre. And then I got streets and drainage. Now it was cut off, but it's, roughly $600 a linear foot to put in curb and gutter, streets and drainage. And that's a fixed cost. It doesn't matter whether I do this layout, this layout, this layout. It doesn't matter whether I have 10 lots, 50 lots, 500 lots. I am fixed. That street cost is absolutely 100% different. If I put 1 acre lots, it's the same street as if I put 1/4 acre lots. If I put 1/10 of an acre lots, it doesn't matter. It is a fixed cost because of ordinances. Now, if you look at this, these different sizes lots, well, you also got to look at what's the sales price of that lot. The sales price for a 1/2 acre lot is not twice as much as a 1/4 acre lot. You have economies of scale. So just using roughly numbers, a 1/2 acre lot, $110,000 sales price. A 1/3 acre lot, $80,000. Roughly a 1/4 acre lot, 0.22, $60,000. Now, these I think the 1/2 acre may be a little high, the 80 acre, or the 80,000, probably reasonable, 60,000. These are reasonable numbers, okay? So the developers are stuck. They come here and they say, okay, well, I can sell 12 lots at this price, or I can sell the 80 or the 20 lots at this price, or I can sell the 29 lots at this price. And they're stuck on development standards. It is absolutely stuck. I recently came, when we were doing the park development, I recently asked for a variance on pavement standards because they wanted to do a nicer roadway. They wanted to do a concrete roadway because they liked the aesthetics. Plus, it's a better product for y'all. So we asked the minimum standard for the parish is in the MPC zone, which is another thing, is 8 inches of concrete on 8 inches of rock for boulevard sections and 6 inches of concrete on 6 inches of rock for non-boulevard sections, side streets. Well, we provided calculations to the parish and asked them, I mean, I can show the calculations here, asked for a variance to decrease the amount of cost or to decrease the amount of infrastructure cost, because that's if everything's fixed, if the land cost is fixed, the only thing I can do is bring down infrastructure costs. If we want less lots, that is the only way to attack this thing, because I still have to sell the property. I can't go out and have bigger lots sell at the same thing as lesser lots, or vice versa. I have to be able to market the property. It has to sell. If not, what's the point in doing it? It has to sell. It has to have a market to it. So we came and asked for some lessening of the standards. We came up with some calculations. They agreed to the calculations, or the easel counts. Easels stand for equivalent or
listen close
single
here.
axle loads. It's just a number. Equivalent single axle loads. It tries to put everything into a car. Well, my
Talking about
calculations
weights of
showed
vehicles.
that I have, this is going to blow your mind, I was required 771,000 easels. That was based off of what was the projected traffic. The minimum section that I was required to put in for the boulevard was 8 inches of concrete over 8 inches of rock. That generated 3.9 million easels, almost 5 times the amount of strength and durability that was there for the concrete section versus what was required. And I requested a variance that shows that, hey, I'm projecting that to 900,000, and I was denied. So we're stuck. We have to develop the streets at what y'all's requirements are.
All right.
So what he's
talking
about is as a developer, and and he's an engineer that kind of does the math for the builders and developers on building these streets for these subdivisions. They put requirements on them to build the streets going to your houses in these subdivisions to a standard to where they'll hold up. And they talk in detail a little bit, and they talk about how an asphalt typically, I think is, and I may be wrong here, you can't hold me to this, but it should hold up for 10 to 20 years at the estimated amount of traffic of the vehicles or houses that are on the street, and a concrete should hold, I think, 30 to 40 years or something like that, with, at different parameters. Well, what he was doing the math is the parish has established a set rule across the whole parish for what the standard will be for all roads regardless. Well, if you want to, and what he's saying is if you want to decrease the lot sizes, you're decreasing the amount of cars, because if you've got a tract of land, and if you mandate the lot size has to be bigger, and that only affords you to be able to put 10 houses on it, whereas before you could put 20 houses on it, but the standard mandates that regardless of the amount of cars that are put on it, you've got to build it to the standard of having 20 houses on it, and you don't give a variance.
Yeah.
You market the houses, it's not, the cost is not going to be just ate by the developer or the builder. They're going to pass it on to the home cost. Well, what ends up happening? Not only does the lot get more expensive, the construction of the house gets more expensive, and you end up, there's no more middle income here, people that can afford, not even a first time home buyer. I mean, you've got to be pretty daggum rich to be able to even afford this thing in the first place. That's what he's driving at here. And he's driving at the police jury needs to amend their rules and provide for the ability to have a variance in the rules. You may remember the police jury adopted the most restrictive sound ordinance in the nation. And why did they do that? Why do they have this? And
and the irony is we have B-52s flying over us all the time.
Exactly. It makes no sense whatsoever. So, anyway, so
he's pointing out the fact that there's no, I think the central theme here is there's been no real plan.
Yeah. So Philip, we'll jump ahead to the 5023 mark. Philip tries to take a bite here at Ryan Estes, and in my opinion, Ryan puts a beat down on him. Just listen to this here.
Oh, this will be fun. Here we go.
I got something to say also.
Sure.
I agree with all your maps and all your data and all that, and I think everybody here agrees with you. This is all price driven.
Mm-hmm.
But by the look of this room, people care more about where they live and how many people live there than the price of the streets.
And what I'm trying to...
That's why we're on both sides of this here.
Understood.
I mean, I know I'm friends with a lot of people here, but the people that live here would rather have those lots. So I think
would rather have
the bigger lots and less people. So maybe we're at the point where we can look at both ways and see if there's a way we can save some money.
And that's why I'm requesting, consideration on these things. I'll give you a perfect example. The parish just finished Veterans Parkway. Veterans Parkway had 5 inches of asphalt over soil cement. That came up. I ran the calcs on it. Same pavement.
Wow.
3.4 million easels. So for the parks development, for the 350 lots in there, I was required to build a more heavy-duty roadway than what y'all put on the parkway. That's where we have to adjust things.
We'll get to the princess here in a minute. That's great. He just called them a bunch of morons without calling them morons.
So they're trying to require on these guys, a higher standard than they place upon even themselves. And,
and how much traffic is that parkway going to get?
Oh, it's going to get a ton. But
wow.
to Ryan's point, I would contend they didn't have the money. They didn't have the money to build it the way that it needed to be built. I can tell you when I rode on it the first time and I was looking at the shoulders and I was looking at the way it was built and I was like, oh yeah, this road ain't going to last. It's not, no way it was going to last. And I still don't believe it's going to last. I think it's going to fall apart like really, really quick. It just appeared to me that it wasn't built, to last. But I think it's simply because they were strapped for money. They did what they did to get it done.
Yeah, to get a road in there. All right, shall we listen to
Yeah, and Philip gets his hat handed to him by Ryan Estes here, and of course Juliana's got to jump in and got to save Philip. And she goes to trying to twist and spin things, and here y'all get you a dose of the princess.
Idea of how you could write from us having to write these ordinances. How could you write an ordinance to make sure that it's fair for everybody and yet still allow enough leeway by the engineers for what you're asking for? Because I don't know how we can do that.
That is a process we have to work through with the parish engineer and parish administrator. But what I can say, I believe prior to this pavement ordinance coming in, we We used to be able to do certain things. It was geotechnical engineer driven. We'll have a geotechnical engineer produce a report on a subdivision that says you need 2 inches of hot mix over 8 inches of rock.
So you think that the engineers should have the ability to decide whether it meets it or not with what they
I
can
think we
waive
need
the
to do that
they
in-
can waive the ordinance.
I think we should do it in conjunction. Yes, well, but by the ordinance right now, y'all are the only ones that have the authority to waive it. So, absolutely. I think the parish engineer and the design engineer ought to work in unison on coming up with a pavement section that helps reduces costs, but also allows the developer to give a different product on the ground. We can't do that because
So how do
we
you
are
stop,
handcuffed.
how do you stop fly-by-night engineers? Because I mean, I'm an attorney. I know that you can pay an expert to say a lot of stuff from coming in here and being hired by developers and say, I mean, how can we as a body on the police jury have rules that prevent that? Because we're not all engineers.
You have a parish engineer that is also well-versed in design standards for roads. So he has to be, he is your safety check, your safety valve for
So
these things.
who is going to stop us when we get sued from somebody saying, well, Eric was biased and he let Ryan do this, but he didn't let me, and that wasn't fair?
It needs to be data driven. It needs to be geotech driven. I mean, we're required to come up with, as a part of y'all's ordinances to design pavement, we are required to come up with this and meet certain things.
I got to stop right there. I can't let that go from the princess. Did y'all hear her?
Oh, who's going to stop us when we get sued? I mean, the bottom line
Stop
is
so and
who's
so
gonna-
from saying so and so from saying so and so did it. No, you stupid wench. You go by the data.
Well, I mean, that's what Ron Estes is saying. You know, it's math. You follow the math. I mean, what she's talking about is the good old boy way, the good old boy system. Might I add? I mean, she's partners with some people in Bossier City, tied at the hip. I mean, there's the old way and there's a new way, and the new way is you do it based off the math and reasoning. And Estes goes into detail here in just a second about why is this blanket policy on road construction, because he explains it well. I mean, and I think you guys will understand it. It would be like trying to say that you're mandated to build a road in South Texas. It needs to be the same as built in West Texas, needs to be the same as built in Wyoming, that needs to be the same as built in Iowa or in Ohio. Every one of the surfaces are different. There's no way the road is to be constructed should be regulated to have to be the exact same. There's no way it can be. It should be different. But she's articulating that it should be. Why would she do that? Why would she be fighting for something like that? Anyway,
don't make me answer that. Here we go.
I know why, and you know why too, and everybody watching this show knows why. Philip knows why, but you know, again, it's the old way, and either we're going to continue to do things the old way, or we're going to do things to where, you know, there's no favor one way or the other. It's all based on the science and based on the math. But I would just say I know some people over off of Monica Lot Road that are in a lawsuit right now dealing with the police jury and, you know, trying to put the burden back on people in the public. I mean, there you goes another reason. Maybe if the lawyers, including Juliana and in our government, weren't so happy and using our tax dollars to go after citizens, you know, like our federal government, like Stephen Miller was talking about in the beginning of the show, maybe if we wasn't doing things the old way and we had our own Doge in Bossier Parish, maybe we could correct some of those things. But, you know, I digress.
You digress. All right, here we go.
This number right here. So we came up with that and the parish agreed. And then I showed I showed calculations on, hey, how are we able to change things? How can we get a more effective section that is going to be less maintenance on a concrete section? And I think the parish engineer was behind it. I didn't think he had a problem either
So
way.
we shouldn't have any requirements at all. We should just say
No,
Eric
I
gets
think
to
you should.
decide?
I think you should have minimum requirements, but that does not state that. The way I believe it was.
Where did he say no
We couldn't
requirements?
make any
He didn't.
adjustments. I showed that my 6 inches of concrete was like, it was something like 5 times the durability or something. Maybe that was the 8-inch concrete. That was 5 times the strength that was needed for the development. And now on this particular development, it is as stout as Airline Drive. It is as stout as the Veterans Parkway that you just put in, which is a major thoroughfare that is going to have dramatically different traffic loadings on it. Dramatically. In fact, I believe there's no heavy trucks allowed on that portion of Veterans Parkway right now, or one Crouch Road. Yeah. So I mean,
is
that is an equivalent section that we're able to make changes to development to allow for a different product, whether it's a bigger lot or smaller lots or whatever, because everything's market driven.
I got one. Why don't y'all ask your police juror, and if you're in Juliana's district, by all means ask Juliana, if she knows of any roads in Bossier where they went back and did tests of the soil cement in the construction of the roadway and found that the soil cement was lacking in the roadways.
I believe I remember some guys talking about that on a political podcast once upon a time.
I remember some talking about it. In fact, I even remember hearing some police jurors talking about it. And but by all means, don't take my word for it. I mean, y'all send Juliana a message and ask her and see what she tells you. I bet she pleads the fifth.
Yeah.
Deaf,
All
dumb,
right.
and stupid.
Do we want to continue on with this little back and forth, or shall we jump ahead? Do you want to listen to more of this?
Yeah, let's go ahead. I'm trying to remember the part because basically Ryan makes a point to the issue about the standard of building a road a certain way, to where he talks about, like, if any of you are familiar with Rocky Mountains, a lot of iron ore. Why would you have to have a requirement, for a road to have, the same requirements on a bed of iron ore, basically building it on a rock, as you would building it in a swamp? He makes the point that they're two totally different surfaces, but under current policy within Bossier Parish, because under the previous administration of the parish and this police jury, they have a blanket policy that says that no matter what, all of the roads will be built the exact same way. And that's ludicrous, and there's no ability for a variance, period.
So let me paint that perspective then. So up around the Rocky Mount plain dealing area where it's hilly, a lot of iron ore in the rock, like you said, and all that, the same road requirements are there as they are down in South Bossier, where it's getting into the river bottom and a lot of sandy soil.
Correct. Okay. And won't even consider a variance if the conditions is such that it doesn't even come close to mandating that. Hell, they could potentially build the road and it be worse than what the ground naturally gives up. But by gosh, they've got a rule. The police jury is God, and they know what's best.
Well, Juliana knows what's best, not the engineers.
Of course she does.
We as landowners and developers and engineers have to make sure that projects are viable. And the only way where we're doing it right now, not being handcuffed, is density. So there has to be other ways that we can funnel or change that that allow us to move forward in a direction. I think requiring a residential boulevard section that's built built at a higher standard than the Veterans Parkway doesn't make any sense. I just, I get that we don't want maintenance, but the maintenance required for that development, there's no two apples to apples. We're not comparing apples to apples on roadway number. That's a thoroughfare. This is an internal street. So.
Thank you for answering my questions and helping me understand. Appreciate it.
All right, Ryan.
Ryan, we will.
We got 3 minutes.
Yeah,
And y'all have any more?
No, we didn't take the time on this. Ryan, we will be getting with the engineers after we get through, get all the data in that we're looking at it, and we want to sit down with y'all. You know, you just talked Greek to me. I had no idea of the weights that you were showing. We depend on Eric, Butch. I do know that in my district.
Hold on a second. Did y'all just hear that?
Yeah,
literally. How long has Glenn Benton been on the police jury? I don't know, a long time. He just literally said he had no idea on the weights. That's what they had Eric and Butch for.
And what did we play Butch saying regarding the sewer district? A fallacy, but yet all the rest of them were depending on that. I mean,
the
term limits
running the asylum.
Term limits may not be the solution to everything, but I think term limits right here in what we just articulated is a solution to that. I do believe that.
Yeah.
Well, your friend at the 58:45 mark, Rodney Madden, made a few comments, but what was interesting was the dialogue that took place following his comments right here.
All right, here we go.
Or a 500, you need a 250. You can't get up and down Airline Drive, Benton Road, Merritt, all out through there. It's like Jimmy's talked about. It used to take 30 minutes, 20 minutes to get to town. Now it takes 45 minutes from us. You can't get up Airline Drive in the evenings because it backs up all the way down the road. What we're here asking for is your help in controlling it. And as business owner, I can't develop or do something I can't support or pay for. That's the big question I have to y'all, is how are you going to support this if you let it go? You know, what are you going to do?
Well, that's why we're here, is to figure out how we're going to support it.
Rodney Madden, 484 Merritt Road, Benton, Louisiana.
And I understand all the traffic. I live at Wimple and Benton, so I see it every day. But a few minutes ago, Mr. Rogers said everybody here was against residential development. That's what y'all are here for. And I just wanted to know how many were actually against residential development.
No, they showed up to know what was going on with development.
Okay, let's move on.
So
I disagree a little bit with you. My point that I made, I think
Okay, you can stop it.
All right.
So because what happened was Marsiglia basically said, "Who all is here to oppose residential development?" You know, and that was the question. That's what spurred Rodney Madden, and then Philip took issue with it, and him and Philip kind of sparred over it a little bit.
I'd have to go back and look through the comments to see what Philip actually said.
So this next part is Greg Williams. He's another builder developer. You know, pretty good guy. I know Greg, and he's got a pretty big project happening between on some of that old Machota property between Benton and Airline. Listen to what he has to say here.
Yeah, and I'd like to say, hey, we're at nearly 2 hours and still have well north of 100 people listening in on this. So we appreciate all of y'all watching and going through this this police jury meeting with us. Here we
go. The ordinance.
Say it louder, Greg. We didn't hear you. And your address.
Shoot, I don't even know
The
where I
people on
live.
Facebook don't know who you are.
Greg Williams, 307 Grist Mill, Benton. The thing that bothers me so much is you saw on what Ryan put up there on the sizes, if the economics don't work the same. But if you've got an ordinance that we can't get around that I know Eric would have worked with us if he could, but I'm just talking about in the park, I'm the developer of the park. We've got a entrance coming in that's 5 times what what you've got here, 5 times. So if we had some variance on getting some waivers on that you get the product you need, it's based on geotech. It's the soil type. So in the hills of Rocky Mount, it may be a lot of iron ore. They may not have as much. So I'm saying when you get one ordinance that's a blanket for the entire parish, it puts a cost problem on a guy trying to develop. I'm all for it, just for the record, I'm all for better streets. Because I know that concrete streets are what we're gonna have to have because of the burden on the police jury. Because, you know, as a developer, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, I'm a taxpayer and and I don't want that burden on me. But if we could come to some type of ability so that Eric could work with us and not be bound by an ordinance, that we could get the concrete streets with the proper geotech on it, then I think we can get somewhere and meet some need. And I don't know what size. My concern is if you get too big a lot, is that you'll price out the.
Yeah, he starts going down the road and of you're pricing out people, and you know, Philip Rogers makes the statement that, you know, look, I want to take care of the people that are here, but what Philip, I would contend, doesn't understand is that all the people here have kids, and probably we would like to see their kids be able to afford to start out and to stay here. But if we make it to where they can't afford to stay here or be here, where are they going to go? They're going to go somewhere where they can find affordable housing, which may not even be in Bossier. It may be out of state. I think that's where Greg Williams is going, and Glenn Barnhill solidifies that point right here in the next comment.
All right, here we go.
Glenn Barnhill, 568 Pine Cove Road, Elm Grove, Louisiana, 71051. Just a couple of points I want to clear up.
Pull that mic down a little bit, Glenn. There you go. There you go.
We know that y'all's budget is tax-based driven from a sales tax standpoint. When you go and change these lot sizes, you increase that. If you add an impact fee on a lot, you increase the cost of that lot. We are driven by middle-class people here. 80% of Bossier Parish is middle class. And when you start increasing the cost of these houses to middle class, most of these people, you will kick them out of being able to have an American dream of owning a home. And you also kick out that sales tax that those people are going to come in here and spend, which is going to reduce the budget that you get. So we got to look at everything from a standpoint of people here. There's only 2.81 months inventory of middle-class homes right now. That's in the 200 to 300,000 range. And that's typical middle class. 5% of the market is 450,000 and up. So we need to look after the middle class. These lot sizes don't need to change, because when you do start changing these, you increase the cost of these lots greatly. And the other point I wanted to make was we need to take care of our infrastructure and everything. We don't need to change the lot size. The street section that we put in, Kane's Landing, is 3.5 inches of asphalt over a boulevard section and 2 inches of asphalt over 10 inches of rock on side streets. We have under construction, or have been constructed, about 225 homes that have been poured. That's over 3,000.
We can wrap that up, but he made the point there in the beginning. I mean, I think it's an illusion that people of the police jury think that everybody in Bossier are people who have houses in Stonehenge or Oak Alley, and they're you know, the $500,000 $1 million home type people.
Yeah, that's not
I'm
true
sorry,
at all.
that's not Bossier, and they're not gonna make that Bossier. I mean, I'm sorry, you're just not going to do it. If you do this, where are all those airmen from Barksdale? I mean, you're going to force Barksdale to build more housing out there, and you're going to force those airmen that are coming here to not consider buying a house here. You're going to price them out. That's
You're
just my
right.
2 cents on it.
Kids can't hard to argue with that.
So I don't know, and I get the point that we need to be able to. I get the point that we need to be able to catch up with the infrastructure. I understand that problem, and I would be more trusting of the police jury if they were just willing to fess up to their mistakes that they've made with the management of in the past. But they won't do that. They'll never say we screwed up. It's just like Vince Maggio. Vince Maggio will never say, you know what? Even though 4 judges said I was wrong and potentially broke the law, he will never admit that, you know what? I was wrong. I listened to those other asshats and made a mistake. He won't do that. He won't do it. And these guys aren't going to say, you know what, we screwed up either. They're not going to do it.
Yeah, you're right about that. All right. Shall we jump ahead to Butler and the documents?
Nah, I mean, basically, Barry Butler asked a question, and he was suggesting basically that show us the documents and let us, digest what you're talking about. To which Patrick Jackson, he was talking about a transportation study, and Patrick Jackson was basically saying that we don't have the transportation study available yet. It's not ready to be released to the public. So they're moving ahead, and if you get the transportation study or you get their estimates, you're not going to have much time to digest it because they're trying to move really fast. And to me, when government is trying to move really fast, they're not wanting you to read the fine print, or they're trying to hide something. And in this case, it's my opinion, what they are wanting to hide is for you to not figure out that they've made mistakes spending the money you've already gave them in the past, and they want you to give them more money now. They're trying to figure out any way that they can to generate revenue so that, I mean, look, Airline Drive, Benton Road, the new Swan Lake, the Veterans Parkway, whatever, all those roads need to be bigger already. They need to be bigger. And the decisions they've made in the past put them in a position to where they can't address those problems right now. I mean, it is what it is.
You can't deny that. It's all around us, literally. All right.
So
let's spend our first deep dive into the police jury and a Bossier Parish police jury in a while.
Well, and I've laid a lot at the feet of the sewer district and the why the decisions that they made with the sewage district and having upside down there. But you know what? That's not the only cause. Go to cut 10 that I have in the folder, and we've talked briefly about this before, but the McCormick's, out off of Monica Lot Road. Here is another cause and effect of why they're in the situation that they're in. You've got the McCormick's, and the police jury has been fighting the McCormick's. A lot of folks may not realize this, but if you haven't, their story is a pretty interesting story. And it's also a story that is common. There's other people that have this same or similar battle. I know of another court case right now. I can't talk about it just yet, but I'm thinking that maybe next show I'll have the information to be able to share about it. But this case right here, right now, the police jury fought the McCormick's, and right now it's going to be heard by the Louisiana Supreme Court. The police jury, the McCormick's had a house on a piece of property off of Monica Lot Road. Their house caught fire, burnt down, and they went to try to rebuild it. Well, they went about it the right way and tried to get a building permit through the process. Well, then the police jury says, oh, wouldn't give them a building permit or wouldn't let them rebuild their house. And they said because the road going on their property from the public road to where they wanted to build their house for them to be able to get the permit, they had to turn that road over, build it to the standards that they're talking about right here of a developer of a subdivision, and then turn that easement or property over to the parish. Parish would then own that property, and then they would approve them to build that house. Well, this was their land. It was an easement and a private driveway that has been forever. And but yet they can't build their house, rebuild their house, and the police jury was kind of more or less blackmailing them on this. And this took place during that election with Barry Butler and Juliana Parks. And Juliana Parks had a role in this deal, in which someday we'll be able to kind of talk about all of that. But the district court ended up ruling against Kim and them, and then they appealed it to the Second Circuit. The Second Circuit overturned the district court and ruled in favor of the McCormicks, and the parish is still fighting it, taking it all the way to the Louisiana Supreme Court. And I would tell you, this is probably, the parish is probably, I bet they're $100,000 into fighting this case just against the McCormicks.
Right.
Yeah. And it's ridiculous. Go to page 12 of the PDF in this document. And one of the issues is in the law, like, there's a prescription. The contention was that the parish was saying that when they filed to divide the property or whatever, that the prescription begins whenever the parish chooses to investigate, per se. Well, because they had filed a plat and they had filed the paperwork in the courthouse. Now, it wasn't properly filed, that's admitted, but the parish said, well, simply because you filed it at the courthouse doesn't make it when the prescription runs out. It's when we suddenly decide to take action on it. And the Second Circuit ruled in favor of the McCormicks to say, no, the prescription begins when they file it in the official record, because, anything filed up there in the clerk of court's office, that's part of the public record.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to remind everybody too, we've got their video, I know, on our YouTube channel for Bossier Watch. The title of the video is How a Local Government Tries to Extort $250,000 and their property. If y'all want to go listen, it's only about a minute and a half long. Absolutely go listen to the McCormicks tell their own story.
Yeah, and on page 14 of this document here, in the third to last sentence, the Second Circuit described the police jury's action as unconstitutional taking of the McCormick's property. That was their terms in there.
Wow.
So and I've learned of another case, and I'm trying to glean information about it, where a landowner in Bossier has had a driveway that was built in 1973, and that the parish is actively fighting in court to prevent this landowner from using a road that was a driveway that was originally on the property since 1973. Can you freaking believe that? So, and they have a shortcoming on money for infrastructure, and they're doing stupid stuff like this. I got to tell you,
maybe they shouldn't spend so much on lawyers.
Yeah, maybe so. So I don't know. That's all I got for now. And
look, we've been talking about focusing our attention on the police jury and less on the city council, and it's kind of getting to that point. The city council elections are coming up, pretty soon. Arguably, half of the good old boys rats are jumping ship. So that's definitely going to change things, and everybody that watches and comments and calls their city councilman and all
I
that have signed the petition, have been a big
no.
part.
I gotta argue with you. I gotta argue with you here. You know,
I made a mistake.
you're calling them rats. No, I disagree with that.
Okay.
I disagree with that because it's our fault that we enable
Jailbirds.
people. It's our fault that we enable our local government to continue to do what they're doing.
Oh,
It's,
yeah, good point.
I mean, it's humanity that people are going to just stay and stay and stay and not change, and we're guilty of that because we're refusing to change. It's what I see in this Maggio race. People are not wanting to change. They're wanting to enable the past to still hold on. They want to continue the same old ways. They don't want to look at the reasoning. There's a lot of people that are ready. They see it. It's clear as day to them. You know, they see what action has been taken, but there's a lot of people that don't want to change. They're resistant to change. They want it to stay the same, but that's only because it ain't showed up on their front doorstep. You know, put McCormick behind their name and it shows up on their front doorstep, then they'll be howling. They'll be howling.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, somebody made the comment on Facebook the other day. I forget the whole context of it, but basically, y'all just have an agenda. Yes, we absolutely have an agenda. The agenda is to do what we've been doing for 200 and, I don't know, 50 plus shows now over the course of 4 to 5 years. And that's showing the behind the scenes, going in depth into some of these things that go on in politics around here. But our agenda is also to enact term limits and to help get people in office who fully support term limits and aren't a Judas Jeter, Benedict Arnold type person, and who aren't fighting term limits tooth and nail like Darby, Mr. Immigrant Darby, or people who don't, elect the mayor in their freezer, Mr. Maggio.
And to segue off this and to wrap this up with a bow, and you can be getting cut 3 ready, but if you think, I mean, don't pull up cut 3 yet. Let me get this thought out here. People in government in Bossier City, the people who have been in there for 20 to 30 years, and the people on the police jury. In fact, I heard it today. Somebody at the police jury or on that video, they were talking about how that people want to come to Bossier. The reason we're having this problem is because everybody wants to come here because it's so great. It's so great. Well, they don't stop to think maybe this growth was naturally going to come here anyway, because you know what has been here before they all existed? Barksdale Air Force Base. Barksdale Air Force Base has brought so many people here, and maybe the expansion is here in spite of these people in government. What could we have done if some of these bad apples that have been hamstringing our local government weren't in local government? That's what I would argue. So, but they want to continue to double down. And if they've done such a great job, why is it we're behind on our infrastructure development? Why is it we're behind on money? Why is it, that we have problems? Why is it that Bossier City has the highest debt per capita of any city? Why is it our public safety officials have to put billboards up to be brought to an average salary? If everything is so perfect, why are those things happening? They shouldn't be happening if the job has been getting done. But in cut 3, I found this one that Elon Musk says, and I'm going to end with this one. And I think this is so right.
He says, if we don't remove the roots of the weed, then it's easy for the weed to grow back. And that corresponds perfectly to the background for our show event. It's also the background here, Growth for Dummies, for all those police jury members that aren't sure how to help actually rural parish.
Well, thanks everybody for tolerating us for several hours, and we hope that you are more informed than you were before we started. And if you have any information or that you'd like to share, and any leads, I mean, the Proton Mail gig, and Rex, good job putting everything together. And,
Well, look, you did a great job on the notes and time stamping the video. I was just clicking the buttons today, so hat tip to you for putting all that together.
Well, we all get lucky sometimes, right?
Yeah, we do. All right. We're out of here, folks. You all know the drill, like Duke said. bossierwatch at protonmail.com. Make your own Proton Mail account. Send us info if you want to do it anonymously. The Bossier Term Limits Pack. Go donate some money there. Hey, get out and help Miss Ruth, Miss Deborah Ross, Cliff Smith, Creighton Cochran, and Chris Smith. Help them with their campaigns. Share their posts out. Like their posts. Get out there and walk some neighborhoods with them. Hold signs up. Do your part to vote, because it's coming up pretty quick.
And by all means, Vince Maggio and his supporters, they need help, because I saw blades of grass down Benton Road that didn't have a Vince Maggio sign obscuring the sunlight to it. So they really need y'all's help. I mean, yeah, he's got to kill more grass. They're not killing enough down there. So
maybe you can put signs up around the monument.
He should put a Vince Maggio flag on top of the Walter O. Bigby Monument, the Tower of Tax Dollars. But did you know, Rex, according to the Maggio camp, that was all paid for with donated money? Did you know that?
Wait, what?
That's what I'm hearing. I'm being told that his people are putting out there saying that was all donated money. I mean, I rightly remember there were votes at the Bossier City Council, but they're telling people that was donated money, that it's not true, that it costs the taxpayers money.
Idiots. Pure idiots. But that's for a whole other show. All right. Mr. Lowry, it has been fun again. I am about to hit the finish button, and we will see everybody next week.